Is there any specific government policy or program that you would like to see reformed or introduced in the upcoming 4 years that you think would be really helpful for the business community, just from business perspective?
So the short answer is no. And that's really because I'm not, again, that's outside of my domain expertise. So I'm not going to, pontificate on things that I really don't know about. But what I would say, broadly is that I believe from a tax perspective, there's not just the social equity arguments that are always made. I think there's a lot of business logic to making sure that if there are going to be tax adjustments, that the benefits flow to the bulk of the population, not the bulk of the income, which is in a very small percentage of the people. Because if it flows to the bulk of the population, then those people have a lot more capacity to buy things, to invest in themselves and things like education and that sort of thing, and be contributors to society. I'm getting a lot more people participating that way. And I think that's probably, I'm hypothesizing now, I think that's probably why the economy has done better under Democratic presidencies than under Republican presidencies, at least in the United States. So that's one. So what is going on with the taxes is part of it. The other thing that I would say is, well, I'm a fan of smaller government, so tax cuts are great, smaller government must be, I do believe there are some things that the government can invest in that are hard for the private sector to fully carry by itself. And the two things are climate and education. And so if I were a government, or if I could, provide some, I would love to see as much resource as possible go into education and climate. Because, not just because those things sound nice, and wouldn't it be wonderful if our planet was, not that hot and, more people had a good education, but both of those things, in my view, education is easier to understand, deliver great returns on investment. Because if you have an educated population, it goes back to our conversation about AI. If you have smarter people with more capabilities, those people are going to be productive. The more education that they have, if they don't have that much education, they're at risk of being displaced, unemployed by automation, AI, technology, that sort of thing. So we want our people to be as educated and capable as possible. And on the climate, I believe the costs of climate change are massive. And so if there is investment that can prevent further damage, hurricanes, all these other kinds of things, it's not just about, I like to ski, so I wish, ski areas had better conditions, but hurricanes and those kinds of climate-driven disruptions are really, really impactful. They kill a lot of people. They cause trillions of dollars of damage. And so individual companies are going to have a hard time making enough of a dent in the drivers in order to get the return. But government is big enough that maybe we can bring things down through emissions and that sort of thing. So there's business logic around these things. And so I believe if it's done in the right way, and that's a big if, right? That kind of investment can not only make the world a nicer place to live in, but also can drive economic growth.
This is absolutely on point, I think. And, but unfortunately, I think the trend in the last 60, 70 years since the end of the Second World War has been that the middle class has consistently become narrower and narrower.
Yeah,
it's consistently being squeezed. So
no question, and also probably familiar that the Gini index is also going up in the United States. Historically, pretty good on the Gini index versus a lot of other parts of the world, but getting less good. So rich are getting richer in the United States, and the middle and lower are having a tougher and tougher time.
I think there's Professor Amartya Sen, who was in conversation recently, just a very recent interview, I think about 2 weeks back, where he discussed that the inequality at this moment, I think I don't recall clearly, but I think he suggested that global inequality, or perhaps it was specifically for the states, is that it's at an all-time high now from the time it has first been started to be recorded.
I haven't studied it that carefully, but if I had to bet, I would say that that's true, both on a global basis and in the United States. And of course, you're going to have exceptions to the rules where countries were ruled by, a despot or a very small number of, very rich families, and that evolved away from that. So you have countries that are exceptions, and I suspect in places like Africa, for example, developing countries, the Gini index probably has gone down, over the course of the last 40 years. But for sure in the United States, it's going up, sadly. And it's going up in a lot of other places as well.